It's easy in America, like we were talking about earlier, to be stuck in our own cultural bubble. And you can look and see how bad the culture is in terms of, just what we've been talking about, abortion, euthanasia, eugenics, transhumanism, transgenderism, all of the things. But it's when you read a book like that, it really puts into perspective at how blessed we are as Americans and how all hope isn't lost. And we were just reading in Isaiah today, the Lord is standing there ready to say, come, let us reason together. I can wash your sins away from you, but you have to obey me and you have to be willing to obey me. And so it was just a wonderful reminder of, first of all, the cost of Christianity, and then what a faithful Christian can accomplish, and how blessed we are, and a good reminder to never idolize an organization or to idolize human beings and serve the creature rather than creator, because the creatures will disappoint you.
Well, they in turn are worshiping something else, and they become like what they're worshiping. And so it's always going to bring, no matter how much fulfillment you think you're going to get or they're going to give you, it always fails.
Yes.
All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to the Feminine Glory podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Lydia Edmonds, and I'm joined by my amazing co-host, Esther Edmonds.
Hello, everyone.
And we have a fun episode planned for today, talking all about...
Books.
Books, yes.
All the things books.
Yeah, books that we enjoyed, books that recently we feel like are very pertinent, books
that we read and disliked.
Yes.
And books that we hope to get to before we die.
Yeah.
No, books that we have.
List is ever growing.
Books that we have that we would like to read before the year's over.
Yeah. So.
Which is quickly approaching.
Oh.
The busier that we get.
We're basically in December already.
We are.
That's how our
it's pretty much
schedule
over.
Feels. The year's over.
Yeah.
No,
everyone's work is ramping up.
I feel like we talk about a lot lately. We've been talking about a lot lately from Andrew Sandlin's episode on prayer. There's been a lot of prayers lately of just like, Lord, help.
Yes.
I'm not even sure what to pray for, but Lord, help.
Yes.
You see, you hear, you know, and you deliver. Please deliver in this moment.
Yes. But it's all been good.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful.
Very, very good. So, Lydia.
Esther.
Let's begin with the relevant books.
Okay.
So what books have you been reading lately that are very relevant and helpful to the times that we live in?
Okay, so we'll just start with our latest episode. Emma Waters released, let's see, within the last few days.
Which, interestingly, is getting more and more relevant because the New York Times just did a piece on Emma.
Things you, thought you would never read. New York Times. It was not on my radar of things to read. And now they wrote a piece on Mrs. Waters.
It is hilarious. Just what they think about her is ridiculous.
Yeah. It definitely just feels like it was someone was very upset and they wrote this in their whiny upsetness and rage, and that's what it's just hilarious. It's hilarious.
Their big takeaway, they're upset that she listens to classical music, that she is what they think a trad wife, which she absolutely is not, but they think she's a trad wife. And they're upset that...
Which trendy trad wife, she clarifies, trendy trad wife that you see pushed on social media. Not
right.
in the sense of being a traditional stay-at-home mom seeking to live biblical principles. And I know you know that. I just want to make the clarification for that.
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. Thank you. But, yeah, they're really... And they're tying it all into it's Trump's fault again. Which is hilarious.
My big takeaway from that is that they're really just upset at God.
Yeah, they're upset at the fact that that she is pushing a biblical worldview and Christian principles and Christian beliefs because she is a Christian, and they are not. And so it really comes down to what we've heard people like Dr. Boots say before, that it's either theonomy or autonomy. So it's God's ways or our ways. And are you going to worship the creature or are you going to worship the creator? And so that's really what I 100% agree with you. That's really what the article came down to, is they're upset that she's pushing Christian beliefs.
I think they're upset too, like just in general, if I could guess, probably a lot of liberals feel that they're losing grip of the culture. So, I mean, we've talked about this before, you and I, like our country was on the precipice of, I mean, we're in a moment of horrendous sin, the murder of thousands of children, and marriages that are falling to pieces, and God's ways are not being honored and respected at all. And so, but in many ways, we are on the precipice of even further destruction.
Well, like way more than Hitler. We've murdered way more than Hitler ever murdered.
It's truly
millions
sad.
And millions of babies.
And so, and then you have Trump elected, and in no way, shape, or form is Trump our savior. But I remember our father telling us, okay, you have 4 years to build, get to it. Like, God was so gracious and merciful in this moment. Now get to it. Don't waste this moment. And I think there's a lot of Christians that then with the assassination of Charlie Kirk, the death of Odie Bacham, picked up on that. And it's like, okay, well, this is a moment. Look at the culture right now. Look at the upheaval. And then, all right, we have 4 years of mercy. Now get to work. And so I think the liberals probably see things like an Emma Waters, who is exposing the atrocities of IVF. The abolitionist movement is gaining traction. Then you have people like the Second Lady, Caroline Leavitt, that are promoting this view of, although not perfectly, although we don't agree with them on everything, this view of life. They're having children. You're seeing fruitful marriages. And so I think they're probably really trying to win back. It's like, okay, things are being pushed in a sense to the right, to a more Christian worldview. We don't like that. How can we paint this in a bad light? And I think that's where articles like the New York Times wrote on Mrs. Waters come from. It's just they're really upset.
Panicking.
God's ways are being promoted.
Yes.
Even though I don't think everyone would say, well, yeah, I'm a Christian, I'm promoting God's way. Not everyone in the current administration might not say that, but yet God's ways are still winning.
Yeah, it's like
always.
You'll still be blessed if you obey God, even though you're not actually giving credit to God, that it's his principles that you're following after. If you do follow after what God actually instructs in his word, because that is how God made the world to work.
Yes.
They work.
It's operating in his framework.
Right. And so I think there are several people that have just been fed up with the left ideologies and I would even say even broader, just pagan ideologies, that now, like you're saying, they're going back to God's principles and God's ways without even realizing that it's God's ways that they're going back to.
Yep. And that just goes to show you, I know, Linux Califungua had a wonderful Instagram video about how we don't even realize how Christianity has affected the West. And we'll try to find it and link it, because it really was spectacular in ways you just, like, whether you realize it or not, even in the moments of doom and gloom where it feels like, Lord, where are you? God's ways are always winning, even though it doesn't feel like it.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think it's one of these things that you have moments where it's like in our general sanctification, where you have ebbs and flows. All along the way, God is working towards advancing his kingdom, and it's very neat to see.
Yes, but going back to, we digress. Going back to Emma Waters' book.
Yes, so that is one of the most perfect books for Christian, well, just women in general, but particularly Christian women during this time, when things like girl boss feminism and like the online tradwife movement are being shoved down our throats. And really, once again, it's a distraction from what God would have women to do. And so she anchors all of the subtitle is 7 Timeless Principles for Today's Women of Faith, and she gives example after example after example from scripture of how Christian women ought to be operating and what God says that we should be doing, that we need to be shrewd, competent, hospitable, and how motherhood and God's design for women doesn't make you less of a person. It doesn't take away from what we think are the important things. Like, that is actually an important thing, and you as a wife get to be a battle mate to your husband, and you are very much a part of the culture war and a part of taking dominion. And so she does a beautiful job just explaining what women in all seasons really need to be working towards. And so, yeah, we were talking about it with some friends at church on Sunday, and it is just a perfect book for women in America today.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, how about you?
I would say that, and we've talked about this on the podcast before, but Nancy Pearcey's Love Thy Body was really eye-opening. And it was interesting how the Lord tied it into, before we knew, how he tied it into then later when I read Emma Waters' book, within the last chapter, she says that the biggest theological fight for our day is the definition of a human. Mm-hmm. And that tied in beautifully to love thy body. And it really helped me to see, just to be able to break down what is actually happening and how it all ties in together. So it's not just, it's not as if we're just coming up with these ideas of euthanasia or eugenics or transhumanism or transgenderism or, you know, whatever the case may be, abortion. It's not like they're just all independent of each other. Right. They're actually all related, and they're all related, again, tying back into what is your actual worldview and who do you think created the world and whose world do you think this is? Mm-hmm. And so when the way she breaks down, and especially as we talked about with her in the episode about personhood theory, it really helped to see the two-story levels there, and then being able to apply that to everything. And even now as we're seeing AI reach the forefront of how this personhood theory could be the stepping stone for how we end up granting robots human rights. And so it was, and that'll be down the road, but you could see it coming in the way that she laid out the arguments in her book about how we've applied it to different things like abortion and euthanasia. And so, yeah, it was very interesting because she wrote it back in 2018, and now reading it in 2026 really was impactful because what she wrote about then is true now, and it's true more than ever. And so, well, I would say not more than ever, because she talked about back in the Roman times and how that even tied into biblical times together, and how you can see that the way, in many ways, the way the Romans act then is how we're starting to go revert to now. And so I would say that at least in our current culture, they're more prevalent than ever, but it's tale as old as time. Again, as King Solomon says, there's nothing new under the sun. And so we're just reverting back to when you abandon God's ways, then you really do become, God gives you over eventually, and he removes all of his mercy, and you become what you've been worshiping. And so I think we're seeing a lot of that being fleshed out. But that book was tremendously helpful in just opening my eyes as to how deep of a root this had taken in America.
I remember beginning to read that book right around the time that we were headed to our state capital to lobby for HB 441. And
I didn't realize that was the connection there.
Well, and one of the opening chapters when she's talking about abortion and explaining how personhood theory works its way out into all of that, and even just giving the kind of framework for personhood theory and carrying that to the rest of the book, my mind was blown. And really just kind of this explosion of, oh my word, this is everywhere. And even before getting to the chapters, trying to figure out, okay, well, this is then how it probably is going to work itself out into transgenderism. And so that was just a really big eye-opener for me around that time, and I think really just aided about my conviction of fighting for the preborn more than ever too, and realizing like our culture has gotten to a point where you can agree, okay, life begins at conception, but it's not a person until a later point. And like, as a Christian, that never would have really like, of course we adopt things like that in ways we don't realize, but I never would have said, yeah, that's not a person. And so kind of grappling with the fact of like, there's people that actually think that, and hence why we're murdering millions of babies. It's not a person until a later point, so there's no sense of protecting
doing anything wrong.
Right. And that was just crazy for me to kind of wrap my head around, that there's people that actually think like that, and that's what's affecting our culture today. Yeah. But then that Christians don't fight for it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't fight to push
that's really
the biblical worldview.
Yes. And it's really frustrating when Christians think that it's out of anybody's lane to fight for the life of the preborn. And yeah, it is really, it has put a bigger emphasis, just like you said, on what we actually need to be doing and where we need to be focusing our work, and then put a bigger emphasis on how much more awareness needs to be shown. Yeah. But I do think, I am pleased that it seems like the abolitionist movement is rising, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah, God is so good.
Yes. Okay, so a book that and it can be still relevant, so it's not, we're not going to exclude any of the categories, but a book that you really loved reading.
I really loved reading.
And it could just be any book at any time. It doesn't have to be like the most recent book you read, but just a book or two that you just really enjoyed.
Of course, I went through a serious Elizabeth Elliot phase where I was reading.
I remember that.
book after book after book by Elizabeth Elliot. And I really, in my preteen to early teen years, really benefited greatly from her writing because it's so practical. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like, oh yeah, it's there. Like, I don't know why I didn't see that, but she puts it in such easy to understand terms and language. So she was super helpful for me, and just her story in general. Seeing her faithfulness, she was big for me in my early. There's like one book. Is it These Strange Ashes? Is the one that really made an impact on me. And I believe there was another one, but These Strange Ashes I know was like one of the top 2 of hers. Oh, Let Me Be a Woman was really good too.
I have yet to read that one.
That's a really, really
I want to
good
read that
book. I do remember also in my early teen years reading, I think it was my early teen years, a book called God's Smuggler about someone named Brother Andrew. And so right around and then after the time of World War II, it walks through his journey of taking Bibles into, they think they have like they call it kind of like behind the Iron Curtain, so Eastern European countries suffering under communism. And so it's a really neat story of kind of first of all, you have great character development because it's biographical. And so to witness that, and I'm a big fan of biographies. I love biographies. And so witnessing like his journey, then how he got married, how his wife joins in on his mission, and then it's one of those two where the power of prayer is on full display, because when you would cross over into the borders of these other countries, you would of course have to have like, all right, get out, we're going to check your vehicle, see what you're doing, why are you coming into the country or whatever. And so they would have to come up with creative ways to hide
Wait, you mean that not all countries just have open borders?
No. No. They're very strict. Very strict.
Sorry, go ahead. I just had to get that joke in there.
But
somebody was bound to make it. I just thought it should be me.
They had to come up with creative ways to hide the Bibles in the vehicle so that the soldiers wouldn't, like, places they wouldn't search for things. And so I can't remember if it was like they had forgotten to hide them or if they had a box that they didn't disguise well or what happened. Anyway, he was really concerned that the soldiers were going to just find this section of Bibles or whatever. And so,
which would be very scary.
Well, because then you're going to get into like so much trouble. Mm-hmm. You could be arrested, all of these things. And so he says a prayer like, Lord, just help these soldiers not to find these Bibles and like help them to make it into the country, something to that effect. And God and his goodness, they completely like missed that section, skipped over that section, and he was able to smuggle Bibles into the country. But it's one of those crazy, like you see how much they risk, how much they have to go through, how much wear and tear and suffering it takes, the toll it takes on them as people, but then yet how God blesses their faithfulness. And so that I do remember. I don't know if I would agree with him theologically and everything, because it was a long time ago. I'd have to go back and reread it. But all in all, a very, very good story. And I think just a good reminder, too, of like, okay, it may not be that, when you cross state lines, you're doing, trying to make disciples in America today, you have those same situations, but it's also like, are you willing to count the cost of what are you as a wife and mother, or just as a friend, as a Christian in general, what are you willing to risk? And like, are you so much bought in to God's design for the world that you're like, I'll risk it all because this is obedience. Of course there's wisdom and like, don't be dumb, don't be stupid, make wise decisions, but still, what are you willing to risk? And so I think it's a good reminder there for women, especially because I know you don't want to go through the scary situations. But yeah, that was a really impactful book too.
That's good. That's really good.
Yeah. How about you?
So one of mine, and I think we talked about it on the podcast before in Gwen Newell's episode, but I don't remember how extensive we went into talking about it. But I really enjoyed The Persecutor by Sergei Kordakov.
Okay.
And he was he was born in Russia, and his father served in Stalin's army. In between Stalin and the next leader, everybody that had served under Stalin was just disappearing. And so his dad was among them. And so his dad just disappears while he's still young. And then his mom dies of illness. So the Soviet state takes over of Sergei's life. And then he goes and stays with the family. And then the son of that family ends up trying to murder him. So he runs away. And then he's making trouble on the streets. And then the Soviet state takes over and puts him they catch him and they put him into an orphanage. And then they send him to a communist school, of course. And then he has this moment in his life where he just decides that in order to make it in this life, you have to adopt all the ideologies of the day. So you have to become a full staunch communist. And you have to just embrace everything. You have to play the game. And so he decides, he's full of ambition, and he decides that he is going to be the best communist leader of his day, and he's going to be the youngest, best communist leader. So then he becomes quickly the communist youth leader of his area, of the several boys where he was at, and he ends up actually becoming a teacher for the Communist Party, trying to get other students involved and get them to embrace this as he has. And his goal is to make it to the very top. That's his he wants to become the best of the best.
Okay.
And so, and as far as he's concerned, this is how you make it in life.
Right.
So, along the way, he ends up getting hired by this group that hired him to make raids in the night or during the day. And they're making secret raids on secret churches. And so he has the teaching job, and now he has this other job. And so he agrees, and they start. It's a really gnarly group of men that he's with. And so, but again, he just is desperate to please his leaders. He's desperate to please men. And he's embracing his beliefs. And so this is the natural progression. So anyway, so then he starts making raids against all of these secret churches, and just horrible things that they did. His description, the book is his own words, and the description of these raids and what they would do to the Christians is so horrific. But one of the raids that really stuck out to me, one of his stories, was that they went and raided this house, and they would break into these secret churches, and they would meet in houses, of course. And so they would break into the person's house and they would beat everyone up. The idea behind it was that they would scare the Christians into hiding. And so they would just stop, and they would retract everything that they had said, and they would no longer be Christians, was their idea. Right. They clearly didn't know their Bibles. Oh, yeah, and that was the other thing. They were supposed to grab all of the banned literature. So they would take all of the Bibles, all of the hymns. It would all go. So they go and raid this one person's house, and there is a young girl there, probably about you and me's age, and he just decided to take it out on her. And so he just beats her up so bad. But he noted that she would not cry, or she would not scream. Like, she did not, he could tell that she was trying to control herself. And so she bit her lip to not scream because it hurt so bad. And of course she's, the weaker vessel. And so there's nothing really you can do. And there were soldiers everywhere. And so she is getting beaten and she's crying, but she will not scream. She's not showing it. She's just biting her lip. And he said that she bit her lip so hard to the point that it started bleeding. And he could tell it was a really bad, she had really cut herself just trying to keep it together. So he ends up leaving her, if my memory serves me accurately. And then he goes off. And he thought he had just scared her so bad that she would never try to attend another secret church again. So then they go on another raid sometime later, and she's there again. And he just stops like in the middle of the raid because he's so baffled. He does not know what to, he just can't fathom the fact that she came back.
Right.
And so he ends up, one of the other guys was there was several men in the party, and one of them was really, really big and strong. And so he was about to just go to blows on her. Mm. And one of the guys just randomly stops him. And it wasn't Sergei, it was somebody else. And I don't know, to this day, he doesn't know why he had him stop him, but they end up arresting her instead. So, and then he calls her in his office, Sergei does, to just ask her, like, about herself. Why is she doing what she's doing? Because he is being plagued by this woman. Like, he does not know what to do with her.
Right.
And basically she tells him she's a Christian. And so you can beat me all you want, but this is what I believe. And so I'm living this out. Mm. And so, and you can't stop it. And so he says later on that if he had been a Christian, then he would have wanted to marry her. Wow. But he said that her lip was scarred from that one night when he saw her the second time. So he is still being plagued by her. So he goes to where she used to work. And he asks her coworkers about her. Just like not on... He was investigating, but he wasn't being told to do this. He was just researching of his own volition. And so the coworkers are singing her praises. Like, she's such a great worker. And they have no idea she's been arrested. So they just say, she's such a good worker. She's very nice. She's very kind. She does her best. And they're just saying so many wonderful things about her. And then they ask him, why are you asking? And he says, well, she's been arrested. And they turned on her on a dime. And they just were coming up with all these things that she had actually done but didn't do. Mm-hmm. They're like, well, she does really good, but this one area she's really lacking. In this one area, she's really mean in this if you do this. And so he observed that they turned, and he figured it was out of fear. And so she really got him thinking about Christian faith. And she stuck with him in his mind to the point where he was writing his biography before he died. And it was just a really good reminder what we as women should be portraying as Christians. You know what I mean? Like, it was a really staunch reminder of, wow, like, because that woman has no idea to this day what she did in Sergei's life. But
simply by obedience.
Right. And by being one of Sarah's daughters and not fearing what's frightening.
That's a really good point, because I truly believe that in many ways, even like mostly good, solid Christians have bought into, and Christian women in particular have bought into the victim mindset of woe is me, how hard we have it, and all in ways they probably would never even think, like, oh my word, I have bought into the victim language. But we don't then also think about, like, okay, in moments when you really do have to count the cost, will you have a here I stand, I can do no other moment? And just, no, I am so convinced, like, to my bones, that this is what God has called me to do, that you can beat me up, you can imprison me all you want. Like, I'm going to be obedient to the Lord, because he owns the world. Like, I don't... You just wonder, like, as Christian women today, would we make a stand like that? Right,
yeah. Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. And if my memory, it's been a minute since I've read it, but if my memory serves me, then after that, he does end up making it to the top. But along the way, he just keeps having these questions of, why are these Christians standing as they are when they know that we're coming? Mm-hmm. And so he ends up making it to the top of the Communist Party, and he realizes that it's a bunch of drunk men that are really gross, and they're not ambitious, really, and they're human. And he realizes that they're human, just like he is. And he contrasts that then with the Christians he's observed as he's been making these raids. And he ends up going into he ends up attending a naval academy along the way, and he for the Soviet Union, and then he ends up becoming a Christian. And at this point, though, he's made it so much to the top that if he comes out as a Christian, he'll be killed instantaneously, and he knows that. And so he decides that he's just going to have to flee, because it's flee or die. So, and along the journey when he's fleeing, he ends up becoming a Christian. And it was such a neat story. First of all, just to read, I think that it's easy in America, like we were talking about earlier, to be stuck in our own cultural bubble.
Yeah.
And you can look and see how bad the culture is in terms of, just what we've been talking about: abortion, euthanasia, eugenics, transhumanism, transgenderism, all of the things. But it's when you read a book like that, it really puts into perspective at how blessed we are as Americans, and how all hope isn't lost. And there is, we were just reading in Isaiah today, the Lord is standing there ready to say, "Come, let us reason together. I can wash your sins away from you, but you have to obey me, and you have to be willing to obey me." And so it was just a wonderful reminder of, first of all, the cost of Christianity, and then what a faithful Christian can accomplish, and how blessed we are, and a good reminder to never idolize an organization or to idolize human beings and serve the creature rather than creator, because the creatures will disappoint you.
Well, they in turn are worshiping something else, and they become like what they're worshiping. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, it's always going to bring, no matter how much fulfillment you think you're going to get or they're going to give you, it always fails.
Yes.
Which, just as a side note, bring up Isaiah, I know we've brought this up before, but I would highly encourage everyone, if you don't have a reading plan or that you're following, boy, oh boy, this year, I know we've mentioned before, you discover something new, like
every time.
I probably couldn't say that for when I first started. I was very young when we first started, but now, of course, that I've gotten older, every year there's something new that you're learning. And I think this year the theme for me has kind of been Deuteronomy 6, basically, that you're supposed to bind the law of God, the word of God, on your heart. You're supposed to keep it before your eyes always, and it is supposed to be the foundation for everything that you do. Mm-hmm. And even then, in turn, how that played into the kings, where they were given a command to write the law down, and weren't they supposed to read it every day or something like that? They were, and so
I don't remember the frequency of it, but I do remember they were supposed to read it regularly.
And so, and then when they failed to do that, how things went south for them, and because they forgot the Lord. And I think that's been the theme for me this year, is remember the Lord, remember his commandments.
Yes.
Because I think it's also really good, just kind of summation of where we are in America. We've forgotten the Lord. Anyway, so I just say that to say, I'd highly encourage everyone to be reading through the Bible as well, chronologically, or some sort of reading plan, because it really is truly, that is the foundation that we stand upon as Christians. God
Absolutely.
and his word, and of course worship the Lord on Sunday. But
I know I waxed eloquent, but I have one more plug.
Yes.
Or one more book to recommend. Miniatures and Morals by Peter Lightheart.
Oh yes, tell us
all
about
of my
one.
friends will know why, but
Jane Austen.
It was really helpful to appreciate Jane Austen for who she is, and her wittiness and sheer cleverness about how she wrote. Her literary style is tremendous.
You mean it's not all
wonderful.
about romance?
No, it's not. And one of the things I love, so I'll just give you an example. So Peter Lightheart unpacks each novel and how, and just really unearths all the Easter eggs within it. So Jane Austen was very politically astute, and she was a literary genius. And so, just for example, I believe it was Mansfield Park.
Okay.
That is basically she's making fun Jane Austen is of Gothic romances, which would have been prevalent in her day given the Bronte sisters. And she's making fun of Gothic romances. Now, she does say that they have their place at times, but the point of the story is to make fun of Gothic romances, and she teases it all along the way. So there's different instances where you can tell in a Gothic romance there would be it would be a murder mystery or something. And so she gives these little hints along the way of where this could turn quickly into a murder mystery, but then it's not, and it's just real life.
Okay.
And so it's kind of like, I'm going to tease it, but it's not. And then it's a really clever way of doing it because you love the story.
Like, while still advancing the story.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. No, absolutely. Yeah. And so, because a lot of it takes place in a castle, and there's a young girl that goes to stay at this castle, and so she's been really indulging in the Gothic romances, and she has a friend that's not helping her be a sane woman that's, appreciative of reality for reality's sake.
Yeah.
And so she's been diving deep into the Gothic romances, and so they're all in her head.
Okay.
And so she's imagining the castle in a way that it should not be imagined. And imagination is great, but she was making it very clear that it can be a harmful thing if you imagine things too much in the ways that they're not actually there. They're not actually real. And so that they aren't actually. Phrase it that way.
Like, kind of like Anne of Green Gables takes the
yes, exactly.
to the next level.
And we all love Anne of Green
reality.
Gables, but she's silly. Like, let's just be honest. She's silly. She's really silly. She's not living in reality. And so there's a balance there. Every wise woman needs to have a balance of imagination and reality being in check. And so, so that is just one example. And then again, she's very politically astute, making fun of the different leaders or the different ideas prevalent in her day. And so it's just a really great book. It's a short book, short and sharp, describing just the literary genius of Jane Austen. So I'd highly recommend Miniatures and Morals by Peter Lightheart.
We as women need to strive for, to the point, like, to be able to look at culture and decipher what's going on, and to be able to pinpoint different things and be able to make fun of what needs to be made fun of. And yet, of course, as Christians, all the while advancing the kingdom of God. But I think that's what we as women need to strive to have a mind like Jane.
Yes. And it just makes you think, like, what was she thinking? Like, if you were just to observe her, did she just sit and listen to everyone and then was like, you will make a great character in a book that I'm about to write?
You gotta wonder who inspired Mr. Collins, though, in her life.
Yeah, I'd love to discover that. I have different books written on Jane Austen that I would love to see. Does anybody know?
And you can still see in
after somebody she knew.
You can still pinpoint, like, oh, this person in my life is a Mr. Collins.
Yes.
This person is a Mrs. Bennet.
Oh, the Mrs. Bennets. I feel like the Mrs. Bennets are multiplying in my life. I feel like the older I get, the more I'm like, and you're a Mrs. Bennet, and you're a Mrs. Bennet.
Once again, we bought into the victim mindset.
Yes. Well, not only that, but then, like, some of the moms out there that are just vying for their daughters to be married, I'm like, whew.
I feel like we're on the cusp of, like, arranged marriages in America being like a very prevalent thing.
I think it's people that have taken
in certain circles
the problem of people not marrying and not appreciating marriage too far.
Well, I think it's in a very interesting way an avoidance of God in all of this, as if God has stopped ordaining marriages with our parents' generation. Like, God has given up. There will be no marriages.
The Bible makes it abundantly clear. Let me just say this. The Bible makes it abundantly clear that those that walk uprightly before him and do good, he will give them the desires of their heart. Because the desires of their heart will be the desires of God's heart. And if you are truly walking uprightly before God and you are desiring to be married,
and in his word daily, then
you have to trust God that he is thinking that you are not ready yet if you do not have a spouse. And that's just, and we've talked about this several times, so I feel like we're going to digress. But yeah, just trust the Lord. Please do us a favor. Trust the Lord. And but Jane is so good. So
Yeah, I'm discovering that now with You Got Me, Love and Friendship. And it's a beautiful book.
I've sucked you in
general
to Jane's world.
Yes, I have. I'm diving into. I started like Pride and Prejudice or Emma or maybe both when I was really young. And I at the time did not see the appeal, and I'm now diving back into Jane and finding the appeal. And it's Love and Friendship and other of her works. Is it her? It's her early works. Correct?
I believe so. I haven't read it, but I saw the book and I knew you didn't have it because I think you had almost all of Jane's other works. You had her classic ones, but you didn't have this one. And I believe so. I think it's when she was first diving into her writing. Like, I think she first started writing, I want to say when she was about 14.
Okay.
And I want to say that these are some of those earliest works around that time. I don't think it was her first ones, but it was around that time. I think
it would make sense if some of them were her first. But the character development, it's just really, really funny, kind of a lighthearted. A lot of them are lighthearted, kind of poking fun at things, and it's very, very good. Her descriptions are hilarious, and even too, you can tell me if it was her early works, the kind of early development of perhaps the Mrs. Bennet types that are like prone. There's these two ladies, I believe it's in the Love and Friendship section of the book, that are prone to fainting. And so they'll faint and they'll be out for a while and then they'll come to and have to sort out situations that have happened while they've fainted. But they're like constantly fainting throughout. It's written in letter form. So throughout the letters, they're fainting, and it's really, really funny. Just kind of the character development and story development all along the way. It's quite hilarious. She was brilliant.
I'm excited to read that one.
Yeah, I think you'll enjoy it. It's one of those two because most of them are in like a letter format or short story format, so you can read a little bit before bed, and it's just something to kind of help you unwind before the day ends. But yeah, also appreciating just the literary style as well. So,
yeah. Okay, so now a book or a short story that you have read and disliked, and why?
Read and disliked. I did not enjoy Edgar Allan Poe in school at all. We had a lot of his excerpts. You go through different eras of literature, and so it's like in this era you're going to read 5 things from Poe and whoever the contemporaries were at the time, and so I did not enjoy him at all. It's very, very dark, and I feel like there's a lot of like topics surrounding death and kind of this hopelessness.
Okay, I feel like I need to give the caveat that Edgar Allan Poe, when I first was introduced to him, it was again in school, and he is really talented as a writer. So he is very, very good. And I was instantly captivated by what he was writing. But I was captivated to my horror.
Yes,
so
that's a great way of putting it.
It was, I mean, honestly, when I started reading him, I was like, I forgot what the, do you remember the title of the first short story they had us read by him?
I can kind of see what the front looks like.
No.
A Tale of Two Hearts? No.
Was that it? I'm going to look it up. Proceed. I'm going to look it up.
That one, he had what was it? The pendulum.
Oh, that one was creepy. With the rats.
Ugh, yes. That one. There was another, was it there one called The Raven or something?
Yes.
Anyway, there was just several we had to read, and I just remember not enjoying that section at all. It seemed just very dark.
Telltale Heart.
Telltale Heart.
Yes.
Or someone
So let me just read you the description of this. Okay, let me see if I can. Okay, here's one description. An unnamed narrator who insists on his insanity while confessing to murdering an old man because of his vulture-like eye, only to be driven mad by guilt, which manifests as the sound of the victim's beating heart, leading to his confession to the police. So this guy doesn't like this other man's eye, so he stabs the eye, and kills the man and then hides the man's body under the floor. And then only confesses because he can hear the man's heart beating in his dreams. It's a very creepy story. So he was great. I mean, he has great literary style. It was very captivating, very intriguing, but it was, again, I can just say it intrigued me to my horror that it intrigued me.
Yes, it just seems like there was a lot of despair, something not right there. So I did not enjoy. You're right. Descriptions, great, but if you're drawn into the story like that, they have accomplished their job. But yet you also have to okay, well, what else? You've drawn me in. I'm there. But what are you trying to show me while I'm there? What's the overarching goal of your work here? And it's not very positive with Poe. So, that was one I didn't enjoy. But how about you?
Oh, yes. I have a deep grievance that I needed to air out.
Oh, dear.
I read Pygmalion. And I was horrified at the ending of it.
Why were you horrified?
George Bernard Shaw is irritating in more ways than one.
Yeah.
But he was irritating at the end of Pygmalion because Pygmalion, for those that don't know, is a play. It is a wonderful, well, I don't say wonderful play. It was an intriguing play up until the very end when it was the climactic point and all of the loose ends ought to have been tied.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, emphasis on it's in a play format. So he wrote it as a play.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, there's no more play. And George Bernard Shaw waxes eloquent on how the readers that read this play will probably assume the way it's going to end. And how we're all stupid for thinking that it would end that way. And so, but he could not, for reasons that are abundantly clear, he could not finish the play in play format. So he had to finish it in prose.
Good.
And I just want to say that if you, as the author, cannot finish it in the format that you started it, you ought not to write it. And it was only to push his dumb ideologies. And so George Bernard Shaw failed in his writing skills to write Pygmalion. Because I just want to say, you look at Milton, you look at Edmund Spenser, and you look at how large of works they were able to write in the same format.
Yeah.
You look at Milton and just the skill of taking prose into poetic form, of taking Genesis and then rewriting it into a poetic format. And then you take Edmund Spenser, books of poetry. And then you have George Bernard Shaw, who cannot, and it's a tiny, if you ever buy it, it's a tiny, tiny little book. It really is. It's a very short play. And he couldn't finish it because he wanted to push something down our throats, all the readers that were reading this book.
That's probably why he even wrote the darn thing to begin with.
I know. Was probably, yeah.
For the ending bit.
But I was like, I was so appalled. I was thinking.
I do remember the moment that you found the end there of that book.
I was so irritated. I felt like I had just wasted my time because I was waiting for the ending because I'd always heard about the story, but I wasn't well versed on how it was going to end.
Well, and so in school we only had an excerpt from it.
Right, and I really enjoyed the excerpt that we were given. And so I decided to read the whole play, and to my horror found out that the whole thing wasn't a play, and that he ended it in prose, and then tried to shove Nietzsche down my throat. So, I was very irritated.
Understandably, that's rough.
Yeah, I was not happy.
You had one job.
Yep. And it wasn't even if it had been, I could have, like Poe, even if the same ideologies were trying to be shoved down my throat, but he continued it in play format. I think I would be able to say, I know I would be able to say that, okay, I did not appreciate what he was trying to shove down my throat, but I appreciated the style of the play. I appreciated the literary skills there. Mm-hmm. But I couldn't even say that at the very end. I couldn't even say I enjoyed it because I didn't.
Well, it's almost like an unfinished work.
Right. Yeah. Oh, that was another one. Have you ever read Wives and Daughters by
No.
Elizabeth Gaskell?
No.
I listened to that one.
Yeah.
I think it was like a 24-hour listen. It was a big book. And Lydia, at the very end,
24 hours.
listen, at the very end, it had a similar format to Pygmalion, but it was because she died. And she never got to finish it. And so the person that was, I guess, the person that was reading it was saying, but we can all guess how she would have ended it, and it would have ended this way. And I just felt really let down. I mean, I know it's not Elizabeth's fault that this work never got finished. I enjoyed it very much.
It's almost like a Jane where you're like the proposal scenes don't actually make it into a book.
Well, it was very reminiscent of Cinderella. So I'm like, did they just rip off? I don't know the years that they were written. So it would be really intriguing to see that. Who ripped off who? And it probably, like we found out about Beauty and the Beast, it was probably written off from a Greek play or a Greek myth. But
I feel like you need to unpack that real quick because that's quite Beauty and the Beast is based off of a Greek.
it is
Yes.
Hades and Persephone.
And we figured this out because
We watched Seeking Persephone.
which is based off of a book. We have not read the book.
No, but it was a ripoff. We figured out that it's just a ripoff from a Greek myth, and Beauty and the Beast is ripping off a Greek myth. So
Actually, all in all, it's a pretty good. We found it
The show?
on the show. We found it on Angel.
Well, we need to give it the caveat. It's good, but there are several loose ends that needed to be tied that never got tied.
Yeah.
So it's one of those where if you were just watch it to kind of get something refreshing that was a good story, but it was certainly not a great story. It was good, but it wasn't great. And we could definitely nitpick a lot of things from the show, but if I would say it's better than just your average rom-com movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that way, I really enjoyed it. And I did, there are some great themes in it as to like what a woman that embraces her femininity can actually do.
Right.
But it was certainly lacking a biblical worldview. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that definitely. I feel like I'm coming more and more away from shows like when they're attempting to be more of a clean movie or show, and it's like, but yet lacking the biblical worldview. So it's just there's something lacking there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yes,
But there were some Christian principles hidden throughout it. It's just you have to know your Bible in order to see them.
okay. Let's wrap up then on Let's give us 3 books you hope to read before the year is up.
Just 3.
Just 3.
Just 3.
If you must give 4, you can give 4, but
Oh, thank you.
you're welcome.
Bonus. Okay, so I would say obviously my Lewis, which we've been struggling to find time for each other.
He's been kicked to the curb.
He hasn't been kicked to the curb. He's just been, we're taking a little break. No, we aren't. I am trying to do it. So, but the podcast and some other things in life have been keeping me busy. But I am still set on reading more of Lewis before the year's over.
Okay.
And I got this book. I got several actually. Parlor Politics. We mentioned that with Emma Waters' interview. I'm very excited to read that book. How the first ladies transformed and influenced Washington through their hospitality. So I'm very excited to read that book. There was Empress Theodora.
Yes.
Dr. Boot referenced it in one of his other books. So I picked it up. It's talking about how based off of my understanding, how Empress Theodora was married to the Emperor Justinian, and he made her his partner in his government, and they were quite the team. She brought reform to how women were viewed, and she brought reform she helped the poor, and there was supposedly a lot of church separation during this time, and she helped bring unity. So I'm very intrigued to read this book. I know very little about it, but it seems very promising, so I'm excited to read that one. So Empress Theodora, and then one more, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I picked up this book also from Emma Waters, and I'm blanking on the full title, but it's something along the lines of, we'll link it, but it's something along the lines of God, Esther, and Politics.
Mm.
And so it's walking through the story of Esther from the Bible, and is, giving practical application to it, I think. So I'm excited to read that one. Again, know very little about any of the books that I just mentioned besides Lewis, but they all sparked my interest. So I have them and I'm ready to read them.
On Esther, Pastor Douglas Wilson is going through the book of Esther right now at his church, I believe.
Oh, it's so good.
As of right now, there's about
8
sermons out. And wow, they're so good. I started listening. I don't know. I may be on 6 or 7 right now. Anyway, they're very excellent. So we'll link that as well because they are phenomenal. I know Elizabeth Landis brought up Esther in our interview with her, and so just extremely helpful. So good. So definitely go check those out as well. But those sound like good recommendations.
What about you?
What about me?
You're going to pick up a biography on Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, sounds so fun. I want to pick up Angela Smith recommended several books in our interview with her. One of them being Something from the Oven. It is in my possession. I have yet to read it, but that's one.
That one looks
that's
very
on
fun.
My bookshelf that I keep wanting to read. Then let's see. I also want to read. I have what's it called? Common Sense Christian Living by Edith Schaefer. That one looks really good. And then, I'm trying to think. Oh, The Everlasting Man by G.K. Chesterton. I've been told that after Orthodoxy, that's the one I need to read. Not because they're in any particular order. I just said I was going to read Orthodoxy next out of Chesterton's works. And I was told The Everlasting Man needs to be next after that. So,
nice.
I'm very much looking forward to that.
What about your bonus, your 4th?
Did you get 4?
Yeah.
You did?
Lewis, and then the other 3.
Oh, that's right. Okay. My 4th, my bonus. What would be my 4th? There's so many.
How Then Shall We Live has been plaguing me.
That one does sound good
by Francis
too.
Schaeffer.
I have this desire to read No Mere Mortals by Toby Sumter. I keep seeing it, and so I really want to read that one as well. I've heard great things about it, but have yet to read it, so that would be another.
Yeah.
Especially in a time when people seem to not understand the mission of marriage.
Yes. Oh, man, that's so true. Yeah. Very good. Very, very good. So, before we close, what are you all reading? Our audience, we would love to know, and we can see if we want to pick it up and formulate our own opinions on it. See what kind of taste our audience has.
Oh, I got a bonus question real quick.
Okay.
Quick answer, rapid fire round. Because this is a great test. If you want to reread a book, it was a solid book. So what is one book, if you had all the time in the world, that you would reread?
That's harsh. If I had all the time in the world.
Okay, there's probably several books that you
There
want
are
to
several
reread.
books.
So if you could just
pick
name
one
of your favorites that you would want to reread.
You go first while I think.
If you're going to talk, if I'm going to reread it, it's probably going to be something more for just my sheer... Well, I guess, I would still enjoy it an educational book. But if you're going to talk fiction, Sinking City, The Sinking City by Christine Cohen. I am itching to read that book again. I did The Winter King again, and I was just as enthralled in it as I was the first time. And so I want to do The Sinking City again.
If you want to talk about a wonderful fiction book that has a biblical worldview all throughout it, but I don't think one time mentions God, Sinking City and The Winter King by Christine Cohen, and The Forbidden Child by Gwen Newell.
Yeah,
all 3 of those. And Christine Cohen has a new book coming out called The Second Greatest Thief, to be released in 2027.
I gotta say, I gotta give it to Gwen Newell because I struggle, and I can't say this for like every book, but when we would read excerpts in school of like Moby Dick, I really struggled with books set at sea, and so, or with stories set at sea, and I did not struggle with The Forbidden Child. So way to go, Gwen, for writing a book set at sea that I actually enjoyed. Maybe I'm just super picky about that. I really struggled with like Moby Dick. I did though. So we gotta give it to Gwen.
That's really funny.
If there's anyone else I've read your book and it's set at sea and I enjoyed it and I'm forgetting, I'm sorry. But Gwen stands out in my mind as someone who has accomplished a great feat.
Talk about a great swap.
Wait, why?
You just broad stroked everyone's book written at sea.
Well, I'm sure there's some I haven't read that are great.
Oh,
so
man.
Maybe it's not in general. Maybe I just didn't really love Moby Dick.
Yeah, maybe.
But Gwen did a good job. Once again, if I have read your book, or if you have a book out there that I haven't discovered yet, set at sea, and I'm blanking on that, I'm sorry. But.
Are you talking about like the majority of the book is at sea?
Yes.
Or just like they happen to make a voyage midway?
No, if they make a voyage, that's fine. But like when the central theme.
I don't know. I can't think of any at this moment.
Maybe my taste was not refined when I read Moby Dick and I need to revisit it, but.
Oh, man. Well, I have one that I would reread. I thought about it while you were talking.
Yeah?
Surprised by Oxford.
Oh,
I know we've mentioned that movie and our audience is probably sick about it, but the book was honestly very good. And it is surprising how many times in life that movie has served me well and the book has served me well. So I would say I'm going to leave it there. But Surprised by Oxford, if you have not picked it up, Caroline Weber has a great book. So pick it up. It's a great read.
It's still on my list of things to read.
I read it so fast. Once I started, I just wanted to finish it. It is such an incredible story of how God saved her and how just brilliant she is and how she had to work through. It reminded me a lot of Nancy Pearcey's story, actually.
Wow.
About how she had to work through Christianity in her mind. Like, it had to make sense to her.
Mm-hmm.
It was really interesting. And how several people, how God left her little nuggets along the way of how she would just treasure things in her heart. So good. So, yeah. And she's very intellectually smart. And so it was also challenging in that way, which I enjoyed.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, as Esther said, let us know what you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
And
if you know of a good book set at sea that Lydia can read, you let us know because we will give it to her.
Yeah, I'll add it.
We'll make her read it
to the list. We'll see.
And give a report.
In all my spare time.
Yeah. So please help us out and give Lydia a good book set at sea that she can read. She needs some good reads.
Okay. Until next time, everyone, keep pursuing feminine glory, and we will see you on the next episode of the Feminine Glory Podcast.
Bye.
Bye.